Alright, welcome back to the results video for UFC 304 Edwards vs Muhammad 2. In this video we go over the results of all picks made by the UFC Predictions channels that I've tracked for this event and find out which channels made the most and least correct predictions. And also how much money you could have won or lost if you followed all picks from each channel. As always, we start with the totals for this event. There were 14 fights on this card and a total of 77 UFC channels made a prediction on this card. Those 77 channels made a total of 948 predictions. So on average, each channel made 12.3 predictions for this card. Of those 948 predictions from all channels, 562 predictions were correct, or 59%, and 386 were incorrect, or 41%. What would have happened if you blindly followed the favorite fighter by the Oddsmakers, the Tapology community, or the YouTube Predictors, and placed a $100 bet each time on the favorite? We start with the favorite fighter in odds. The King Green vs Paddy Pimblett fight was even in odds, and since there was no favorite or underdog, that fight doesn't count. That's why you only see 13 instead of 14 fights. On this card, the underdogs did pretty well. Out of the 13 fights, 5 times the underdog managed to win, which means that if you placed a bet on the favorites every time, you would have lost $196 on your $1,300 investment, for a minus 15% return of investment. But if you placed a $100 bet on the underdog for every fight on this card, you could have made $225 for a 17% return of investment. If you placed bets on the favorite from the Tapology community on all 14 fights, you would have lost $61 for a minus 4% return of investment. And if you did the opposite and only placed bets on the underdog, then you would have won $81 for a 6% return of investment. Now the question is, did the UFC YouTube predictors do better? And no, they did worse than the Oddsmakers and the Tapology community. If you choose the favorite in picks by the YouTube predictors for every fight, you would have lost $296 for a minus 21% return of investment. But if you had chosen the underdog in picks for every fight, you would have won $316 for a not so bad ROI of 23%. So in conclusion, this week the Tapology community was best at predicting the winners for this event. For the next two parts, the least and most correct picks, I only include channels that made at least 7 predictions on this card. So a minimum of 50% of all fights. And the names are in alphabetical order. At number 5, for least correct picks this week are 8 channels. Broke Bets MMA, DFS by the Numbers, Greedo Plays, MMA El Dente, The Finch Chats, Tiger Bomb MMA, and Angelo and Jacob from We Want Picks. All these channels made 14 predictions and 7 of them were correct for a 50% correct pick percentage. In 4th place of least correct picks are Lucas Tracy MMA and the MMA Fortune Teller. They both made 13 predictions and out of those 13, 6 were correct for a correct pick percentage of 46. In 3rd place we have the following 4 channels: Cody Dank, Funky Bunch MMA, Nubby MMA, and The True Analyst. They made a correct pick 6 out of 14 times for a 33% correct pick percentage. In 2nd place are Hey Jive Picks and John Kelly DFS. From their 14 predictions, 5 were correct or 36%. Last week, John Kelly DFS did a lot better and he was number 1 with most correct picks and most money won. So quite the opposite result for him this week. And then in number 1 for least correct picks this week is Paul from the Dogger Pass podcast on the Mayo Media Network YouTube channel. He made 13 predictions this week and only 4 of them were correct, for a 31% correct pick percentage. Which channels had the most correct picks this week? In 5th place for most correct picks, we've got 8 channels. 138 MMA, Bedtime MMA, Fight Fiend Forecast, Kunat, MMA Data Guy, MMA Play 365, Keith Shillan from Sherdock.com and UFC Joey. All of them had 10 out of 14 predictions correct this week for a 71% correct pick percentage. In 4th place we have Brandon from Santino DeFranco. He made 11 picks and 8 of them were correct for 70% correct pick. In 3rd place is the Ice Files with 6 out of 8 correct, and This is MMA with 9 out of 12 correct, and both have a 75% correct pick percentage. In 2nd place we have 4 channels: Baby Sharp MMA, The Fight Fairy, MMA Experts and MMA Joey. They all made 14 predictions and 11 out of those 14 were correct, or 79%. And in 1st place with the highest correct pick percentage this week is MMA Che. He had 10 correct predictions but made 12 predictions instead of 14 in total, which means his correct pick percentage was higher than the rest with 83% correct. So congratulations to MMA Che for having the highest correct pick percentage this week. But does having the highest correct pick percentage mean that you also win the most money? Let's find out. But before we do, here is an overview of all channels with the correct picks, their total picks and the correct pick percentage. And also don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy this content and find it helpful and informative. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much. For the most unprofitable predictors and most profitable predictors, we will pretend that you blindly follow all of their picks and place a $100 bet on each of their picks, even if it is a very low confident pick from that channel. And hopefully we can find a channel that performs well with all their picks, even if they're not confident, but still make a nice return of investment over the long run. In number 8, for most unprofitable predictors this week is MMA El Dente. If you followed his 14 picks, you would have lost $460 on your $1,400 investment for a return of investment of minus 33%. In 7th place is Funky Bunch MMA with a loss of $541 for a minus 39% return of investment. The True Analyst is number 6 with minus $553 for a minus 40% return of investment on your $1,400 investment. 5th is Nubby MMA and his predictions would have lost you $577 if you followed all of his 14 picks for a minus 41% ROI. In 4th place we have Cody Denk with a loss of $613 for a minus 44% return of investment. High Jive Picks is the 3rd most unprofitable predictor this week with a loss of $696 for a minus 50% ROI on your $1,400 investment if you followed all of his picks. In 2nd place for most unprofitable predictor is John Kelly DFS, who again was the biggest winner last week with most correct picks and most money won. By following all of his picks this week and placing a $100 bet on each of them, you would have lost $768 on your $1,400 investment for a minus 55% return of investment. But at number 1 this week for the most unprofitable predictions is Paul from the Dog or Pass podcast on the Mayo Media Network on YouTube. By following all of his 13 picks and betting on them, you could have lost $810 for a minus 62% return of investment. Alright, for the last part, which channels would have won you the most money this week by following all of their picks? Which channel was the most profitable predictor this week? At number 8, we have MMA Che. By following his predictions, you could have won $391 on your $1,200 investment for a return of 33%. His return of investment of 33% is the third highest ROI of this week. Number 8, 7, 6 and 5 this week of most profitable predictors are almost even in terms of money won. The picks from 138 MMA made $1 more for $392 profit and a 28% ROI. Then, with a whopping $2 more, is Keith Shillan from Sherdock.com for $394 and also 28% return of investment. And in 5th place is Clenbat for a profit of $396 but a higher return of investment of 30% because he made predictions on 13 fights and not 14. In 4th place we have the MMA Prediction Guru for a profit of $400 on your $1,400 investment for a 29% ROI. In 3rd place this week of the most profitable predictors is MMA. After having a rough couple of weeks, he's finally back in the green with a nice profit of $416 on his 12 picks for the second highest return of investment this week with 35%. In 2nd place we have MMA Joey. If you followed all of his 14 predictions for the winner of the fight, you could have won $445 for a nice return of investment of 32%. But in number 1, with the most money won and the highest return of investment for this week is Sharp MMA. If you followed all of his 14 predictions and made a $100 bet on each of them to win the fight, you could have won $518 for a 37% return of investment. So, congratulations to Sharp MMA for being the most profitable predictor this week. And here is the overview of all channels, their profits or loss and their ROI for this week. Don't forget to visit the channels of the best predictors and most profitable predictors this week. As always, links to those channels can be found in the video description below. For this week, I also wanted to add the losing and winning streaks in this video, but unfortunately, due to some technical issues, I couldn't add them in this video. But I will add the winning and losing streaks in my next video. In my next video, we will look at the results for the last 2 months and find out who were the best predictors in that period. This video will come out in a couple of days, so stay tuned for that one. Thank you all for watching and see you back in a couple of days.